Yes, 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 yes. Good afternoon. Well, it looks like the setup is still happening, so we are going to allow that to happen, and then we can get right down to business. Um, Barbados, we welcome you this evening, and that's Barbados everywhere: Canada, UK, USA, in the diaspora, and indeed in our country itself, Barbados. Here's hoping that your day went very well, all was good for you, and you gave a very good account of yourself. And now we are here. As I get back to putting the information out, helping you understand, helping you to see what is happening, and ultimately enabling you to take better decisions, to look at what our current situation is and be more definitive as you approach the end, i.e., elections and everything else. We are standing at the crossroads in our country. And by the way, I know this is YouTube, and I know that this will go all over the place. I thank you who will look at it, but without disrespect, this is primarily addressed to the people of Barbados and those Barbadians living other places. So, as I was saying, times are very critical, times are very ugly, and we in Barbados are faced with situations where we have a government that is not simply not doing what they promise or well enough with any of those promises. Indeed, we are visited with some of the most draconian measures, some of the most oppressive policies and strategies that we've ever experienced in our country. Much of it stems from the whole idea of COVID, the pandemic that was allowed to terrorize the world. And most of the people who are now finding out are now deciding to find out the truth of it. Most of them were the very people that ignored the information that was being presented to them. And so much of the mileage that this pandemic, this virus has gotten was afforded it because the people that knew better did not do better. The people that should have arrested it, whose voices would have been far more influential, but for whatever reason chose to be quiet. Many of them, the airwaves was loaded with how many deaths, how many cases, how many breathalyzers and all kinds of foolishness. Many of them were reluctant to talk about the recoveries, which were always the statistic that showed that this was never of a pandemic level. It never reached the level of none of the established diseases that we have experienced so far. And up to today, it is still not even close to the common flu. But it was declared a pandemic as the world was taken because the New World Order has been ready to move now for quite a while, and they thought that the time was now 15 months ago. And they started out to rain terror on the people of this world. That terror worked because much of the investigative abilities that we have, we put them to sleep and we allow them to work us over. And many of the things that were as idiotic as ever, we embrace it, and they took us to where they could then step back and watch us literally destroying each other as we continue to get that poison in our systems, which work exactly the way they were planning. So it is good that many people in many places stuck to their guns, continue to educate, continue to show the world what was happening, even though you had the Facebooks that developed the concept of fake news. And so all of a sudden, to stifle that truth from getting out, you were branded fake news. And they put together all kinds of conditionalities that meant that we had a tighter rope to walk. And many of us have been disconnected from the site. Many of us have been blocked. And to this day, many of the articles that were blocked from our people that Facebook knows nothing about and has absolutely no standing with, they were trying to decide what was good for our people or not. Wasn't that? That was never the case. The case was that they are continuing to control information and its distribution, and what they don't like, they are putting the hammer on. And if it promotes the nonsense that is going on, where people's lives continue to be endangered, where people are continue to meet a situation that is untenable in every regard, then that bad information was allowed. And those of us who sought to bring some sanity to the situation, we were the ones blocked. The Caribbean that decided it was going to follow WHO, PAHO, and all the other hoes, pass all kinds of laws and measures, lock us up, curfewed us, shut businesses down, literally bring the Caribbean economies to their knees. The thing about it is, while WHO and all them and the UN were behind those situations, they fuel the leaderships of the Caribbean, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Antigua, Grenada, and others. They fuel those situations, so that those people became abject enemies of their own people. And we were being terrorized because they cared about us. We shared over and over again that this virus was never of any natural origin. You go back, you look at all the information, all the research was always man-made. And for the first time, the world operated in tandem in its ignorance as we listen to people telling us stuff that didn't even make sense, that ordinarily we would not even have tolerated. Far this more embrace. We did it. We listened to being told that if we go on lockdown in our homes with our children, which amongst the crowd, nothing happens to you with the COVID, because the COVID was so sensible that you were in the house. But if you did not have that common sense and you step outside, you now had to do 6 feet. But you step back inside and COVID got a message again, and they say, okay, you go ahead. No, you're safe in there. The strategies were so idiotic, but there was force. Like in Barbados, we got the defense force now on the emergency legislation that allows them to walk these streets of Barbados, and they're out there parading. You got the Mongoose gang called COVID inspectors or whatever they are, they're Mongoose gang. It's a group of terror. Got the police out there. You got SWAT out there. And if you compare what is happening in the Caribbean to what is happening the world over, you would find that the Caribbean have gone way overboard. But that is no accident either, because the UN, through its branches of peons, have been using money incentives for if the Caribbean should show itself to be more stringently attached to the policy positions that they were putting forth. In other words, if they can tighten up on the people in the Caribbean and tighten up, they became entitled to some money from the UN. And of course, not wanting as leaders to use the common sense that they came to the people saying that they had, not wanting to use the so-called knowledge that they say the educational institutions give them, but instead focus primarily on that gift from the UN, after allowing their own economies to be destroyed. Now you're taking monies at the cost of burying the people, then to come back to the people and say, you got X number of dollars in reserve. So a whole lot of mess has gone on. Laws pass. And under the laws, and while people are on lockdown, laws to take land that don't belong to them. 15,000 lots of land from people primarily living overseas, whose hopes would be one day to come home, build a little place, and spend the rest of their days in the land of their birth. Now the government heavy-handedly taking up those spots and cannot show you where they have done the due diligence, where they have made proper and the required time to search, to talk to these people, to make arrangements so that these people, if there's a tax liability outstanding, that they can correct that. But that's not new. One of our business owners who's been doing business in Barbados for over 40 plus years, she had her land confiscated by government on the legislation that ordinarily provides for government to do something like that, providing that they are going to build a park, a school, something that the community as a whole benefits from. No, not this time. This time that land was taken from a private citizen, that another private citizen might have his wish to build a Hyatt Regency Hotel in Arbay Street. So we've seen these kind of actions by government. With this COVID, you come in, you're on lockdown, and it now stands at 7 days. Previously, it was 3 days with no significant increase in the numbers. You had BAMP that said it ought to be 14 days. On what basis is anybody's guess, because nothing significant happened in there, because everybody was coming in and within 72 hours of the last 72 hours, they had a negative test. So now you're locking them down for a further 14 days with a negative test. And not a short 15-minute test or 30-minute test, a PCR, which is a more detailed test. And people were locked down. Finally, government gave in to BAMP after the president of BAMP was given another appointment by the government, and government said that will accept 7 days, 6 to 7 days of quarantine. And this is quarantining people that have a negative test. And you need to remember this. These people are not positive being quarantined. Because if you're positive in quarantine, in 14 days, you can get out of there. But now, as it turned out, you are now quarantined just as if you were positive. You go to a hotel, and here's the kicker. You got to give them your credit card. And that thing can run you for them 5, 6, 7 days. It can run you from $600-$700 right up 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, $100 for that quarantine. Yeah, that is what this is all about. Making sure that the hotel industry get their share of the money. Then you go into their hotel, no provisions. There are just a few hotels that are giving you a little coffee, and I think you could arrange where you can get a little breakfast. I think 1 or 2 of them, I had one of them that gave that. None of the others, not even breakfast for that money. And in most cases, you have to call them and ask them about the change of linen. And their argument is they cannot come into the room because you're on quarantine, even though you are negative. You are negative. But everything that they're doing is treating you like you are positive. And you got a test that shows that you are no more danger than they are because they have no test. But the proof of the matter is right in that thing there when you get to the counter in the hotel. And before that, you sit down in a taxi, which is $35 to $50 to take you to that hotel. Then once you go through that point, another taxi shows up, and that can run from $120 to $135 to take you to get another test. Now, some of you may choose not to realize what is happening here, but it doesn't stop it from being truth. Transpose this into the life of a tourist who is coming to a country after 15, 20 years, promising their family a trip and everything else. They go, they get their test, and everybody negative. They board the plane because, folks, you cannot fly on any one of those airplanes if you have a positive test result. Everybody coming in here is negative. Now, might there be somebody who slipped through the cracks? I am sure. But the vast majority of every person you see descend the stairs of those planes are negative, which by definition should make them safer than all the people examining them, because none of them had a recent test. But you see, the hotels got to get their check, giving nothing for that money. Ask me how I know one of these days, I'll tell you. Got to call and ask for change of linen. Nothing. You get I mean, even if you get some people or some relatives to bring some stuff out, they got to drop it off because you are like a leper in a room sitting down for 6, 7 days. Barely minimum television service. And you're in there. And this is what the government of Barbados want people to come, tourists to come to our country and be locked down 6 days, 7 days out of a 2-week vacation while paying that hotel that is on the list of COVID hotels, paying them their price, and then after that, if they get out, go on then to the hotel that they're booked in the first place, which they have to pay as well. That's the story. And anybody can come and tell any one of you all whatever it is they want to tell you. The fact of the matter is, and I know because I've gone through it 3 times, not once. You paying them hotels over and over again. My highest bill was the hotel was $1,795. The other one was $1,332. The other one was $1,250. And the lowest one was $920. This is what it is. So the whole idea, because if you go back, you quack scientists, if you go back and you check from the time they threatened and they blame the tourists and everything else, you look and you tell me where there has been any serious outbreak because of tourists. Look back and see if you can see where locking people down for no reason at all, just shut away in a room, and are negative. Even the tourists that they claim walk away and take a breather and walk outside to get some fresh air. Even those that they claim were breaking the laws. I don't know, laws what? Where's the breakout? Where is all of this thing that they say would happen to Barbados? And the same questions could be asked for Grenada, Antigua, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and all of the same questions could be answered, could be asked. Because this whole thing has been predicated on whatever, and that is not a scientific concept. Natural science don't deal in ifs and what ifs. But for the first time, we see them dabbling heavy in the what ifs. The scientists that argued with the social scientists and everybody else and sought to print their mark everywhere as to why natural science is a superior science. All of them were ready to dilute that view and start functioning on what if. You go right through the Caribbean and see what ifs turn up. Show us what the results of the what ifs are. And to this very day, they're still using them. To this day, the Caribbean is still on lockdown with what if. In Barbados in particular, you're doing 700 and 800 tests and getting 2. Now that your reason for locking people down is going away, after going through a seek and so-called save, which is really seek and search, where you went into people's houses, virtually every house in Barbados, you ain't get nothing out of it significantly. And now you're going back now talking about random testing as though this is some joke out there that you're just checking to see if the person urine got in some dope in it, which compromises their ability to compete along with the others who are non-drug users. It is the craziest thing in the world. But what you're doing is, if you look, you're controlling our country, you're controlling the people, you're literally dictating to them where they can go, when they can go, how they can go. Because at the end of the day, you have no evidence to back up none of the actions that you're taking. You're a government that is illegal. You're a government committing illegal acts. You're a government that has refused to respect the rights of the people of Barbados. And you can go around the world and talk all you want. It does not erode that truth. And we intend to make sure in 2 years' time, we know you ain't coming in 2 years, but within the next 2 years, we intend for you not to have a voice with the people that are already in cahoots with you and you collude with to do the stuff that you do. We argued that it was not natural. Many of us presented tons of information showing you that. You allow the Prime Minister to say that all of us are fake and you should only listen to her. Now there's a Prime Minister that's telling you that only one voice should be heard in a country that is supposedly democratic, a democratic principle that went away in 2018. So you ignored. Then came the vaccines, and the Caribbean was again allowed to be the guinea pigs of the world. After India could find nobody to test their vaccines, they started to give out some and give some out. But in truth and in fact, since nobody was taking them, nobody was testing them, the persons that they were gifted to were the people that were now the guinea pigs of that thing. And with all the questions, all the deaths that occurred, all the injuries that occurred, this Barbados government has refused to say, we need to stop, we need to look at this again, and we need to be far more sure than we are as to why we are putting this, which is not a vaccine, but it is called a vaccine, so that they can act the way they're acting, just like the emergency approval is not an approval. What that does is it stops or it circumvents the rules for testing, which is phase 1, 2, and 3. And because you have emergency approval, you don't have to do phase 1, 2, and 3. But yet you want to tell the people that you got 60, 80, 90% efficacy. And some people, you got all kinds of ads because the media blitz is out there. And the money is coming to make sure that people take this vaccine. And if after all of what you've heard, if after all the information out there, all the deaths, all the dismemberments, all the apparatuses, and you still want to take that vaccine, have fun with it. But it is time to say no. Because even America is promoting that vaccine and forcing and pushing that thing in people's face in an unconscionable way. In an unconscionable way. How do you get the integrity to tell people to take a vaccine that the scientists, let me call them that for want of a better word, the scientists have told you this will not stop you from getting COVID. In other words, it has no basis in truth. It is nothing. It is worthless. Then you want to compare that with polio vaccines and all the others. The difference is, one, with polio, there wasn't nobody trying to take over the world. Two, those vaccines did their job. This one is doing the opposite. That is why it is shared quite clearly that it can't stop you from getting the virus. But what will you going to do? Now, these people can't tell you nothing about the vaccine. They can tell you that it is not going to stop you from getting it. But then they can come back and tell you on top of that it will stop you from dying or stop you from being hospitalized. Where along that continuum did they pick out them two facts? You can get the vaccine, you can get infected, which is something that interferes, breaks your immune system apart if it is not strong enough. So if you're getting the vaccine and it can't stop that, which means your immune system is open to the virus, at what point is the vaccine going to find a place where it can say, oh, death, come back here. Hospitalization, come back here. At what point does it do that? And how will it do it? But we have become a people so stupid and being treated as we are perceived, we don't even know ourselves. Because when you can go and promote a vaccine, that even your major medical body, Food and Drug Administration, came out and said quite clearly, they are not going to approve any one of them, JJ, Aztec, nor Pfizer, nor Moderna. Why? Because they haven't been properly tested. Here, the reason that they are not being approved. They have not been properly tested. Now, all of you intellectuals and everything else that went to Swami school, please help me understand in my ignorance. They haven't been properly tested, but you're coming up with a 99% efficacy. You're coming up with a 93, 94, 95% safety to them. But they haven't been tested and approved as they should have been appropriately done. I told you a minute ago that one of the highlights, one of them, of this pandemic was a change of understanding, change of language. What used to be a misuse of language is now the appropriate use of language. So now you're hearing things like, you can still get the virus. It's not going to do this, it's not going to do that. But still take it. Why isn't your question, why am I taking it? That's like eating food that ain't going to fool you. Going to work and not getting paid. And we have come now to a place where it is normal to say, take the vaccine. Don't worry, it ain't gonna bother you. Don't worry, it ain't gonna fix it up. Don't worry, it ain't gonna stop you from getting COVID. Just take the vaccine. Because what they're doing is selling vaccines. That's what they're doing. They're selling drugs. Because how in the name of God, how in the name of anything that is good, you can be pushing something to people that your very scientists tell you are not going to do the job. But this is a dishonesty that has swept governments all over the world. And because all of them are being taunted by the UN and other bodies with that check, a few million here, a few million there, principle has gone through the window. Ghana came out some months ago, last year, and they said, the president did at least, that they are not going to visit those vaccines on the people of Ghana until they are properly tested. And what's more, they want them tested by their own scientists. Quite a statement to make. Quite a stand to make. Then you got a vaccine, a virus, and now you got all of these different people making vaccines. In the first 7 months of the deal, nobody can find nothing. First 8 months, nobody can. All of a sudden, come break out in the new year, vaccines all over the place, because they were ever all over the place. They started you off at one test, a swab test. Then that became insufficient. Then they went up in your nose and took that thing right into your brain. They started with one vaccine. Now, science tells you, not to bias, science tells you that you need that incubation is about 9 to 18 months to see how a vaccine will really work. Remember, I said to you earlier on, this is not a vaccine. It never was a vaccine. We can deal with that later on. But let's use their label for a minute. It takes about 9 to 18 months to show up in terms of its effectiveness, whether or not it's an endangerment. It takes a time period. But as they pursued their goals, by the time you had the first shot, they had you scheduled for the second shot. So the first shot never even got a chance. So you had another one up in you. And as fate would have it, they are busy in the labs as we speak, working on the third one. This time, this one is called a booster. And all the while, nobody knows yet what these things are going to look like given a certain passage of time. You talk about science gone mad? Yes, it has. Because you see, God is the ultimate scientist. And scientists have not stopped trying to be gods ever since science was developed. They've always thought they can do a better job than God. They've always thought they can create a different universe other than God. They've always sought to take over from God. And the good news is they will lose every single time. The only problem with that is that there are so many casualties by the time their fate is sealed. So you got a third booster shot. Now America comes out now and say, we will determine whether or not that third shot can come. Because see, a little bit of conscience getting ready to show up. Because nobody allowed time for the first vaccine to settle into your system and see what can happen. You got a second one in there. And again, no one knows, because all of them will tell you when pressured, we have no idea how long this immunity will last. Another darn lie, because if a vaccine is not stopping you from getting the virus, how is it going to work on your immune system? It is stopping you from getting the virus because it is not helping your immune system. So then there's no question of an immune system lasting. There's no question of anything wearing off. The thing does not stop you from getting hurt. If it doesn't stop you from getting hurt, how is it going to tell you when you got to wear off? How far can an immune system go? If it had any immunity at all, it would be stopping it at the door. But this is the kind of nonsense that has been allowed to go around. Governments all over the world have embraced the nonsense. The ones that got power and money has just gone ahead and ordered in bulks. And watch this. Japan had to dump millions And that article was hidden about this so in one paper. Canada and Mexico just had a shipment from the United States of America, only to realize that millions of others were found to be defective. Now, common sense would say it is hoped that those that went before are not contaminated as these are. But again, how can you be sure? You can't argue that these that you're finding, these millions, and there were millions, represent an isolated event. So is it possible that those that were shipped out to Canada and Mexico, that they too have some defective ones in there? Of course it is. But listen to the United States of America. We can't police everything. We don't guarantee anything. In other words, you buy them, you're on your own. And all of this here is coming out of a package that talk about a universal attack and a universal concern for people. Now it has come down to dog eat dog, and whoever can sell the most medications and drugs, go for it. Where is the so-called worldwide empathy? Where is the worldwide connection to each other as they battled this so-called virus? Now it is all about who can market the most. So the Bill Gates and all them that got labs all over the place, that his patents is in Europe, they can keep on making millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. You got a worldwide virus. That's what they tell you. And now you got arguments that go like this. There are certain countries in the world ain't getting none because there's a scarcity and they're going to other countries and this. In other words, everybody breaking for themselves. Dog eating dog, whoever can. And this is supposed to be a worldwide pandemic. Because it was always planned. It had nothing to do with the love of humankind in it. It had nothing to do with any of that. It was a plan to wipe out some people when they didn't get as many people dead as when they want in the first instance. That is why every time coming out of your mouth, you keep talking about the next wave and the next wave, and you keep talking about this strain and that strain, and you got all of these strains, and nobody can quite identify and describe the characteristics of this first strain, but you got all these other strains coming, but you don't even know the strain from which they come. But you want to sell us the idea that even though you are ignorant regarding a full knowledge of COVID, you can still identify these strains. And we've been fed these lies over and over and over and over again. Doctors paid to tell lies. I sat down and watched people calling doctors. Doc, I got so-and-so. Oh, you got COVID. Stay at home for 6 days. Doc, I got this. I would argue that probably 50, 60% of all of those initial cases were not COVID. Many were phone calls. The information was there and it was ignored. But it had to be ignored because had it been taken seriously, it would have undermined this plan. From the Schlesingers and the Rockefellers and come on down, the Soros and all of them. So now, everybody put Dr. Fauci on a pedestal. He's the disease expert in the world. Because again, He was part and parcel of the plan along with Bill Gates and others. And even as they continue to argue that it all started in China, when in fact it started in the United States of America. And when Congress shut it down under Obama, it was deemed not to be disadvantageous to human life. It had nothing positive to it, and they shut it down. And that is when the money got funneled out of America, with Fauci or overseeing that department that it came from, and on to Wuhan. That's where China picked up the baton. Now, Fauci get out there and he lie, he tell lies, he skin coffins, he was a gymnastic, he was a decathlon, he was all kinds of stuff. He made the English language one of the sorriest things to listen to. And we accept it because the world was changing its paradigm of truth. Topsy took exit and Turvey showed up. Now pressured, he finally admits that it is not, he don't believe that it was natural, but indeed it was man-made, which is what we said from January last year, 2020. And we were mad, we were crazy, we were everything other than taken seriously. Excuse me. Now he's saying he supports further investigation into China. That makes for good fun because China knows of his collusion with them and China hits back. China said, tell us about all this stuff. Tell us about who financed this thing. Tell us about the millions of dollars that we got in American money. So he in the hot seat, and he ought to be in the hot seat because he ought to be brought into court and answer for the suffering of people, for the loss of life, and the affliction of this kind of thing on people. He will bring Bill Gates along with him. Don't worry, he'll bring him along. So now that he's on the run and the information is coming out, now all of a sudden, the doctors are now telling you and having these long programs where they're now saying how man-made it is. It was never natural, and on and on and on and on they're going. The very doctors that we were lamenting, that were silent and would say nothing, would not come out and help us understand the affliction of this thing. None of them came out. Now all of a sudden you're hearing them now looking for the day in the sun. Well, I'm sorry. If you think you can get a day in the sun, we can continue to expose you for going against the oath that you took. And when you should have come out and help people understand scientifically what was going on and speak truthfully to it, you shut your mouth. And now all of a sudden you want to come here playing good guy. No, you're not a good guy. When a bunch of crooks. I said, remember, way back, we asked Barbados Association of Medical Practitioners, whatever that is. You are scientists. Why not get together with your counterparts in Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana? Get in the lab and let's start churning up some things and let's see if we could understand what is going on for the Caribbean as a block. They never did. They never answered. The only thing they kept telling the government was lock them down, Lock them down. Lock them down. That's all scientists were telling the government. Their scientific knowledge went through the door as largesse was being sought, handouts and everything else. Some of them got so bold as to talk about how some of us are here telling people and misleading the people of Barbados concerning this virus and its nature and everything else. And some of them get out there and say that. Well, I want them now to continue now to argue the same thing. Now that most of the medical profession and the scientific world is coming out and admitting that it is not a natural phenomenon, it is man-made. Come out now and tell Barbados this is where you found out. You're not going to do it? Because you never had integrity. You took a Hippocratic oath. I can hold that one. You took an oath. How could you be ensuring the lives of people when you are administering things that you have no idea as to their efficacy? Your oath alone should have caused you to say stop. We need something more verifiable before we could get to our Barbadians. And the world over is true, but I'm dealing with Barbados. That's what your Hippocratic oath is all about. And anytime you are advising a treatment that you have no idea as to the outcome or its impact or effect on that patient, you had no business overseeing its administration. Had no business. But you see, we got so many cliques around, nobody would have initiated a lawsuit against one and challenged your right to carry a medical license in Barbados. When you breach the Hippocratic Oath, you are already unlawful. You cannot do or say that a person's life is hard when you are administering something that the entire scientific world are still out to see. None of them can come down on it because there's nothing. And you listen to the FDA, you listen to every one of them. And rather than show some backbone, rather than give respect to your education, you choose the easy way out, and you're still choosing the easy way out today, led by a minister of health called Bostic, whose only position, as enunciated by the Prime Minister of Barbados, if I had my way, I will lock all the Barbadians up and down until this virus is no more. That is what Minister Bostic feels about this whole thing. And I didn't deliver the message. His boss, the Prime Minister of Barbados, delivered that message. So even with all of it, and I challenge some of you to come up with it and show and help me prove that I'm wrong. Correct me if you need to. But I challenge you to find any information in the face of all the questions that these vaccines have been faced with. The uncertainties in many countries, they're being stopped. And not one time did you hear Barbados say, no, we can't do this. Let me wait and make sure that our people are getting something that is safe. Not one time. Indeed, GIS became another propaganda machine. People walking about with placards and leaflets and all, depositing them. All kinds of favors being hinted at if you should take it. Because this is not a love for the people of Barbados. This is about some money that you can get from overseas, and whatever happens with Barbados happens with Barbados. And then you got the unmitigated goal to come to the people of Barbados and tell them how we are all in it together. What are we in with you? If that were true, we would be getting some of the money and everything that you getting and living high off of the hog like you. You decided that the Lord still works 6. One is mine. In Barbados and most of the world, Sunday is the day of the Lord. You decided that the people of Barbados will be rested on Sunday. You're God now. You decide they can't do nothing. They must be rested on Sunday. You, a so-called another human being. No, there ain't nothing here that godly that you doing. Ain't nothing. Churches, you shut down. And up to now, Boston get 3 or 4 cases, and he's still arguing that they know enough, because they don't forget what he said at first. He want everybody shut out. So they're none. Now you got a virus that is going on the books and will be on the books until the end of time. So predicted by the scientists. But Boston is saying that that virus must never show up in Barbados, or you should be locked down. This is the kind of character that is supposed to be heading a ministry of human beings. But as far as he's concerned, put those human beings in an oven until such time as he deems fit. Why you don't legislate like this for the common cold? Because everybody wake up with a cold every now and again. Why you don't legislate like this here for a headache and the different things that afflict people? You want to set up a situation where there's absolutely no COVID in Barbados, when there's COVID all over the world, and it is now recognized as one of those permanent diseases that will be in creation. I mean, will be in our lifetime. But this tells you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of man that he is. And it is time you all stop cheering for stuff and start listening to what people say. What people say is what they are. He, Boston, is speaking who Boston is. And when you attack the people of Barbados, when you attack our people, we are going to come after you, and we are going to look at what you're doing. Mia Morley, in 2014, went minutes away from saying that Barbados should rise up in revolution against the government. Yeah, why you don't challenge me on that when I play the tape for you? I'll play the tape for you. These same people that you are turning around now, and they can't do nothing. They can't even go to the beaches. They got to stand in the house. They're on curfew. Sunday, they can't go to church. Except now that you had your 3-year celebration and you got 3-4 churches. And you up in a church with a robe on, and you never anyhow, you up in the church. Ain't that something? People can't go to church, but you can go in there because you got to celebrate your 3 years. But that is the same churches that you shut down. And these people that call themselves pastors, I encourage each and every one of you to take some time out and read the book of Ezekiel, because that is where God talks to the pastors, and you will find out that you are not sitting in a healthy place. You're political, you're looking for handouts, you're looking for favors, and that is why you can't proclaim the gospel of the kingdom. You're going to open these doors for me to listen to all of these anniversaries. The same person that shut you down and tell you 6 feet 4 ways. So by the time you allocate 6 feet 4 ways, you got 10, 12 people in there. But you can't serve God and mammon, see? And when you chose not to do the work of God, when you chose not to stand for the word of God, you sold out to the devil. And don't be surprised if you find it difficult, if you find it almost impossible to resurge again. Don't be surprised. My Bible tells me the Lord thy God is a jealous God. And none of that stuff should have gone on. None of it should have gone on. You see, you didn't like Brother Scanterbury. You didn't like Brother Durant, who would tell you straight, the same way we can't serve God, we ain't opening these doors for that. Or if you open these doors, 20 people coming in, the rest stand outside. So all of your crowd that you bring in, let them stand outside. So there's the mess that we got. The information is coming now. The information is out there. You claim that you're following the big men. PAHO, WHO, and all of them. But look, America just give the people quite a bit of freedom. Now they're not working, they're moving. Things relax a little and they're living a certain way. You still want a tourist to come into Barbados and spend 6 days in quarantine if he doesn't have vaccines. In other words, you're conditioning your actions on vaccine taking, which means indirectly you are mandating vaccines if they are to have the privilege of coming to visit as tourists and walk about our country. You can say you're mandating vaccines all you like, but your draconian measures that follow speaks to what is mandatory. You're only different from where I've Gonzalez and Scarrett and them. But I want to see what we're going to do now. You're continuing to lock people down. And why would any country at all suggest that if people visit a country that's going to lock them down for half of the vacation time they have, then they can keep the money in the bank, stay where they are, and wait and go somewhere else? Why would a country allow its people to come? And then you complaining now that America and the others now deeming you high risk. You are the ones who beating the people of Barbados down. You're the ones who telling them how high risk they are. Your problem is that you didn't expect America and them to pay attention to what you were doing. So the same way you visiting that mess on the people of Barbados, America say, hey, if it's that bad down there, then we can't send our people. Quite rightly so. But look, we understand that in the face of the new evidence, we understand you're on the move. I'm talking to the Prime Minister of Barbados now. We understand you're on the move. Why? Because COVID, as I've said over and over again over a year now, COVID was just the gutter. It wasn't the stream. It was just the gutter. That's all it was. The programs are still to be implemented. So COVID is going to be used over and over and over again, just like emergency legislation. And you can't tell us no emergency in Barbados other than the police can apprehend the killers in Barbados, except those 4 that they got for killing an off-duty officer. Nobody wants anybody dead. My sympathies go out to his family. My sympathies are all the lawyers be there. He ain't got no right and deserving to be dead like anybody else. But how it is that you can go and find 4 people so quickly, and an average of 45 deaths in Barbados for the last 3 years. An average, higher than that, but an average. 130 people murdered. And you don't have half dozen cases pending in court for them. But this guy gets shot And in days, you got 4 people before the court. You're telling me that we ain't got some serious collusion that we got to address in Barbados? Serious collusion. Then you got a Dale Marshall that went after the former AG, said Brathwaite wanted his resignation, everything else. He was incompetent. He was everything. Now people dying left, right, and center. Not one apprehension. That's why these 4 stand out like a sore thumb. Because all the others, and we know that many of them are sheltered. And you don't have the nerve to resign. But yet we understand you can't resign. Me and Martley needs you there. See, you all the way from the underworld. Now she needs you there. So she don't care how badly you perform. She needs you so you can stay there. Just like Lisa Cummings. She don't care how badly Lisa Cummings perform. She can stay there. Liz Thompson. The propaganda machine. And now that you're going to set up another propaganda machine, so GIS, Ministry of Information, all of them is inadequate. We want another one. And you look at the setup. Them is some gorillas in propaganda. Them in the thing, they are there to propagandize every. If you go to the bathroom, they get you. So with all of these things you got set up, all of these things, money going out left and right. Left and right. And you don't ask them to resign. You continue to let them put their incompetence and their dishonesty on the people of Barbados. And then you come in with your shamelessness to the people of Barbados, justifying or trying to justify the nonsense and the mess that they're doing. It's absolutely no reason. You come into office telling Barbados that it was broke. The government ain't had nothing. Whenever we hold a meeting, when they're talking about how dire the economic situation was. And I intend to answer every one of them that talk in that so-called celebration, that nonsense that most of them talk. But it was so dire that you were able to vote, you and your cabinet, to raise before you all even made the seat hot or comfortable when it were voted to raise. But the money wasn't there. Indeed, the budget for the previous government ministers and cabinet doubled overnight, well, almost doubled and a half, because you had the increased pay then to deal with. Because now, rather than 16, like we had on the Democratic Labour Party, you went now for 26. So when you put all of that associated staff and all that kind of thing, and then more ministers, advisors, and all, then you can take. I mean, crocus bags full of people that money just going through the window. So-called COVID inspectors and really mongoose gang. 28, 24, 28, $17,000 a man. And this is from a country that you told Barbados, the people of Barbados, that it was broke. Because the same people forgot that as broke as Barbados was being said to be by you, Barbados had never reneged or been late with one of its international commitments. Every payment was made as scheduled. But you see, you were the only dog barking in the yard, and Barbadians had no other voice. So after a while, they thought that silence on one side meant that you were telling truth. You weren't telling no truth. Everybody around you, 6, 8, as much as $27,000 a month. Everybody around you. Advisors can done all kinds of people in a cash strapped society. An economy that the hotel industry take a hit, a big one. And on and on and on you can go. And the only money that you got knocking about is more loans from the IMF than it will take. Most of us will be dead by the time those loans are paid back, if ever paid back. And once again, you have created a legacy, a debt for the people of Barbados, for the young people of Barbados to pay the IMF, whose draconian measures are never designed to restore country to sanity. Look at Jamaica, 40 years to get them out of there. And you want to tell Barbados about successful management that commit Barbadians to debt that many of them will not be able to extricate themselves from? And somebody actually trying to credit you with something? You are guilty of squandermania. Same way you come out and talk for them, the period of tourism, the minister, the chairman, and all them. $375,000. $375,000. Money that could have been paid the hotel workers. $375,000 for 4 words on a thing that looked like a slogan. That works out to 93,000 and some and change per word. One word costs almost $100,000. One word, $100,000. You give away $375,000 of the public purse of Barbados for 4 words. And somewhere along the line, the bargaining didn't look good. Because we found out that at least 7 countries have used this slogan already. Even Beckway used that slogan. So now we go and we buy a weather-beaten, overused, reused slogan, 4 words. And we could not even get a bargain of $50 because that's all it should cost. $375,000 we put into 4 words. And then people out there trying to tell us that yes, this would this is supposed to push Barbados in a way that other things can't. What are you talking about? We're going to push Barbados in touristically. Is the creative minds and talents of Barbadians coming to bear on a slogan that speak to the world about who this little country is and causing them to want to come and find out who it is? Not some crazy slogan that you trying to attach to Luxembourg and all of those. Unless and until we market Barbados as a place that offers a circumstance and a life that these money people cannot buy any other way, it will never ever get back to what it was. People came to Barbados previously because what we offered here, their money could not buy elsewhere. And Mr. Chani is going to say, you got to give us the break. You got to be more reasonable with us. When we come in, everything was in tatters. That's a lie. When you came in, you had a healthy hotel industry. So because, let's say it was in tatters, it allowed you then to spend 24 months, 2 years, trying to find the appropriate slogan to market the tourism for Barbados overseas. 24 months. So after 24 months, over time, all kinds of brain racking, because I don't understand what brain you gonna rack when you don't put nothing original on the table, or if you put something original on the table, you did not deal with that. You went and you Googled some names and you went through those names until you come on the one you wanted. And that's all you did. There's nothing creative about the sign that you bought. It was already there. It was used by many countries in the past. It has over 21 years of usage in the tourist market. So what would you have spent 2 years doing other than twiddling your thumb, biting your nails, and recognizing that you knew nothing about tourism? You did not understand the reason people travel to these small countries. You do not understand what they're looking for. You don't have the foresight to do exit questioning where you get to understand what they like and what they enjoy and what they didn't like so that you can plan appropriately later on. So you want us to buy into the idea that for 24 months you were researching and planning. So you plan to go and carry a 4-word slogan. You research a 4-year slogan that was already being used. And you ignored the creative talents of Barbadians who can put together an idea of a country that others, people from other lands, would want to come and say, let me go and visit this place. But tourism, for too long, has been in the wrong hands, and the socialites, many of whom know nothing about it other than the social activity that takes place and the life that they get to live out of it. Because anybody that thinks that tourists coming here want to have the same life here as they had down there, they don't understand tourism. Tourism is about an experience that is not found in your country or that is not found in your experience at home. But when we decide that tourism now got to challenge Luxembourg and Europe and this and that, we already took our heads and our focus off of the reason why people visit, the reason why people travel. Sure, you can have medical tourism and those, but when you got medical tourism, you're talking about sick people coming here to get well. But that's not the crux of tourism. When you talk about tourism, you are talking about fun, sea, and sun. Some liquor to get drunk, some sex. You're talking about fun, and then they can take in some of the island and take in some of its geologies and everything else. Then that can happen, but that's not the reason they're traveling. No, they're not most of them for the most part. So now $375,000 gone. And now these guys, now we got now another committee being established. More money being spent to come up with something after spending almost $400,000. This is the woman that wants to come to Barbados and tell Barbados about their effectiveness as a government. This is what she would like us to believe. Barbadians, I can't say it enough. You are going to have to decide within the next 16, 17 months if this is what you want more of. If being locked down, if not being able to live as you know how, if being able not to go to church, to bury your dead, to go to your weddings and enjoy your kids being married and everything else, you have got to choose whether this is the life you need. Because let me tell you something. The ministers, the government, and all of them, the biggest building all kinds of houses, the building all kinds of stuff out there for their comfort. And then they're coming to you and the beatdown begins. I urge you. I urge you. I know you felt that the ground that we went into last time regarding this COVID and everything, you can figure out, or you didn't want to understand how we could have handled the information we did. Well, you see now that we were not off mark. You see that we were on focus. You see we were on point. I hope that the new information that's coming in now, I hope. None of them ain't got no excuse. Because everybody TV in Barbados got America in it now. Everybody got TV. Cable in there is thieving TV from America, buying old movies from America. Even Africa, even the continent now, producing movies, 10 for dime. And after more than 55 years of television in our country, we are still struggling to establish a viable information center. That must change. That must change. But in order to do that, you need a government with a vision. You need a government that understands what is needed and how it is to be set up. And its constructs have to be in what? Character and integrity and truth, honesty. Anyhow, I want to thank you. I'm over to YouTube. We're going to probably try and transfer it to Facebook and see how that goes. Again, people everywhere, I'm sure you're listening, but this is about our country, Barbados. No thing to you. This may be informational to you, but it's time that we address our country. It's time we look at what's happening in our country, and it's time we call it out for what it is. Because see, when you got heads of governments going all over the place and talking this foolishness and making it look like everybody in Barbados eating with a silver spoon, when in fact most of them don't even have a plate, far as more the spoon. You know, it's wrong and it's dishonest. So this message is directed at the people of Barbados, even if they're in America, even if they're in Canada, even if they're in the UK or in Germany, because a lot of them over there. But wherever they are, because it is time that the people of Barbados say that this is not good enough. This is not right. And this long is too long. People have a good night. Love you to life. See me again soon. I'll be talking to you as we look to bring some information and to keep you informed. And yes, people of St. James North, look forward to seeing you real soon. Keep your chin up, keep smiling. Let's do this together, shall we? Have a good night. Bye-bye.